Got breaking news on Mountaineer Paul Talks football. Been in contact with one of the nation's best safeties. I've got Jordan from Country Roads Webcast. We're going to break that down as the Mountaineers are in his final selection. Stay tuned on Mountaineer Paul Talks football.
This is for Cameron.
Welcome in. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you have landed here again on Mountaineer Paul Talks football. And guys, I got to tell you, got a good friend here with me today. We're going to break down some breaking news. I've had it for a few hours, but it's taken me a little while to get this particular episode up and running. Of course, we are talking about the one, the only Jordan from the Country Roads Webcast, who did a video on this specific player earlier, along with other players in the portal with the Mountaineers. We're talking about Anthony Wilson. This kid's a killer. Jordan, you did a video on him earlier. Tell us a little bit about the kid and how you found out about this.
Yeah, man, I started seeing the news pop up a couple of days ago about him entering the portal, and I happened to read the 247 Sports article about it, actually, and in it listed teams that had been in contact with him, and WVU was one of them. So I was, trying to follow some of the sites, see if an offer came out today. News started coming out that it did, so dove in on him a little bit more, and he's a multi-year starter there. All conference selections there as well in the Sun Belt Conference. And this guy is a tackling machine, Paul. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen his numbers too. What is it, over 240 tackles over the past 3 seasons, 101 tackles last season, which I believe in the one article I read, they stated was like the 3rd most by a defensive back in the entire nation. So it's a guy that's definitely a ball hawk. He can play the deep safety. He can also play the slot, he said himself. So, that's multiple options for positions that West Virginia needs to break in bodies at, whether it be you're talking about the spear, if you're talking about his slot skills, or if you're talking about the cat safety or the free safety there. Either one, West Virginia needs some help at any of those positions. Really, they need some depth pieces, and I think that this would be a great pickup that could factor into the competition at either one of those deep safety positions potentially. So I really like the addition that could potentially happen for West Virginia here. They've made contact. Hopefully we see a visit soon, because I think the one thing we can say about West Virginia is they definitely have to improve the secondary. They've been making steps along the way to do so, and this would be another big one that would really help them continue improving that area of the team, Paul.
Great breakdown, man. And this is exactly why you should go over to Country Roads Webcast and watch Jordan and the work he puts in over there. In the description box, we're going to link his video to this one about this kid being in the portal and the update West Virginia was getting involved. And now we're further updating that with what I kind of want to go over next. So usually what I do as a content creator, since I'm not credentialed and connected, is I watch for these kids to break in the media to see if they're interested. Usually if they hit the portal, I usually reach out through my own method, my own ways, and it works pretty well for me. And so what I usually do is I'll use Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever I can get a hold of, and then I'll screenshot the conversations we have. I'm going to show you a conversation between myself and Mr. Wilson. Previous to this was me asking him about the situation, and this is his response. He said, "Yes, sir. How's it going? West Virginia is a top 2 priority right now on the list between Baylor and West Virginia right now." So that's confirmation. We are in the top 2 for this kid. I couldn't get a full read on whether or not we are in the lead for him, but I will say this. He said he was watching both defenses on film to see if they were fit. I told him to watch the Baylor film from last year just to see how that sat with him. Since we ended up winning that game, I thought maybe that would swing him one way or the other. And as to what position he was going to possibly play for the Mountaineers, Jordan and I both actually separately considered that he would probably play spear because of his tackling. If you go watch his tape, which we're going to pull up some of his highlights here in a second, but if you watch his tape, he is a tackling machine. So obviously there's some back and forth here, and he said they want to put him on coverage. I think this is probably a priority for him. I think he realizes he needs to have more coverage on film. And so the West Virginia coaches being smart are selling this to him, saying, hey, we get some coverage on film. You've got it lined out inside the box, but let's get the backside taken care of now and get you in coverage and see how that looks. And that's a selling point, I think, for this staff because they need that. Throughout the year, maybe he does get into a spear type position or something. But I think either way, getting this kid into the fold with those kind of numbers and that production, you can't go wrong with that. That would by far make him the most productive person on the roster that I can even think of.
Definitely. I agree. I think that that's one thing you can say is that they've been going after players with experience. They're trying to make sure that it's somebody that's been tested at the collegiate level, whether it be even, whether they're coming from group of 5 or anywhere. They definitely want to have players with experience, and that's definitely what you're getting here. He's tested, like I said, 3-year starter, multiple all-conference selections. And like you said, the tackling abilities there. The one knock, as you mentioned briefly there, has kind of been his coverage. And as he stated in the messages there with you, they want to see more of his coverage. But the one thing I'll say, looking at him when I've studied him the brief time that I've had to, is that his coverage has steadily improved. Last season, he actually had his highest coverage grade yet throughout his collegiate career. I believe it was almost like a 73 there on PFF as far as his coverage grade. So at least it's been something that he's worked on and he's steadily continuing to improve. So it's not that he's bad in coverage, it's just that he excels so much in tackling that, coverage has got to be, the weak point.
So completely agree with you. One thing I wanted to ask you about Jordan, we're going to play some highlights while we talk about the kid, just so you can kind of get an idea for yourself the kind of player he is. Here he is against Florida, tackles in the backfield. I think he had either 1 or 2 picks against Anthony Richardson in this game. I mean, he really, so that's against elite Power 5 competition. He really played well that day. Do you think this means that West Virginia is possibly out of the running for Marquise Wilson? Or do you think they're just trying to add as many? I mean, surely they don't want them both. There's a finite amount of scholarships left.
Yeah, that's one thing I was wondering about when I heard about it myself, because we know they've been in on Marquise Wilson for so long. That do they maybe know something coming down the line in regards to him, because he said he wanted to wait till after spring to kind of announce when he was going to commit, or where he was going to commit to rather. So maybe they know something coming down the line that we don't. But I also think when you get a player that's talented like this at a position that you need, you still kind of got to reach out and see what you can do. And if you can get him and you're unsure about Wilson, why not still go for it? Because I think West Virginia, I know they have one safety they're really confident in, and Aubrey Burks there at the free safety position. I think the other safety position last season left a little bit to be desired by the guys that played there, Marcus Floyd and others. So I think West Virginia is really looking to find someone that's going to fill in at the cat safety position as their starter. They got somebody they really like there in Keyshawn Cobb, but I think they want to, breed competition, bring in another guy. So you bring in Anthony Wilson, that's going to help the competition there at the cat safety position, which I think is the spot they're really looking to improve, it sounds like.
100% agree with that. And if you think about it, some places are really, really bullish on Aubrey Burks coming into this year. I actually thought about doing a video on the fact that there was a man that had Aubrey Burks as a top 5 safety not in the Big 12, in the country coming into the 2022 season.
Wow.
And this is a national guy. He had a USC player. He had a mixture of players there. So he's on people's radar. So if you think about, let's say Aubrey Burks lives up to half of that, becomes an all-conference player, and then you factor in a kid like this who's had 100-plus tackles last year, well, there's your weak and strong side safety combination, and you're talking about this secondary getting a whole hell of a lot better in a real quick period of time. Yeah. So this is a big deal. I really hope we end up pulling this out, because I think our offense is probably going to take a step back this year as far as the explosivity, even though it wasn't that explosive last year. And I think it's going to turn back into more of a 2020, 2021 Neil Brown ball control type offense.
Right.
That we had defense to match. We're just going to have a little bit more dynamic play out of the quarterback. I think that's going to be the big difference.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really high on Aubrey Burks myself. Like you said, people calling him one of the top safeties in the nation. I think that he's certainly one of the top safeties returning in the Big 12. A lot of people don't realize last season he ended up as the highest graded, safety in the Big 12, according to PFF. So he really quietly had an awesome season. I know he was injured for part of it. So I really like him there.
That has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. And I like what we saw from Hershey McLaurin as well. And I think that they're just looking to get him on the field more. That's kind of why they've moved him down closer to the line of scrimmage, getting him involved at spear, which is another position. They're trying to factor in multiple guys at him, Lance Dixon, others. But, with him moving down to spear, that's why you kind of have this absence at safety where you're looking to add another body from the transfer portal. And that's why we're talking about Anthony Wilson. He would be a great addition there to help West Virginia at either one of the deep safety spots.
One place you can't be bad at is in the secondary. You can't have one bad player anywhere in the safety. Everybody's got to be average or better. Otherwise, it all breaks down. It's similar to the offensive line. They work in tandem with each other. So if you have one bad apple in the secondary, the whole thing looks bad. Three guys can hit their landmarks in zone, and one guy can miss, gets beat for a touchdown, and the entire group looks bad. Same thing with man coverage. One guy doesn't get to his landmark, let's say he's a safety. He doesn't get over the top in time, or he misreads something out the quarterback's eyes. Boom, touchdown. The entire group looks bad. So I think possibly West Virginia is taking a best player approach, similar to the NFL draft and draft boards, how they do, how they'll just take the best player available on whatever side of the ball they need. I think that's a similar approach.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I agree with that.
All right, guys, if you haven't subscribed to Mountaineer Paul Talk Football, now is the time. It's just your mouse clicker. Move it over just an inch or two. I'm sure it's close. Hit that subscribe button. If you can't do that, hit the like button. Comment on this video. I'd love to create a dialogue about this. Tell us how you feel about Anthony Wilson, the Georgia Southern stud. Tell us where they can find you at, Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me right here on YouTube as well, trying to cover Mountaineer sports also. Country Roads Webcast, as you see the name right here on my hat, spelled just like it sounds there. Look us up. Plenty of Mountaineer sports content, roster updates here as we progress throughout the offseason, transfer target updates like the one you were talking about that I released earlier. Plenty of great content. And I also want to say before we end it, I got to give you your flowers, Paul, for sure. I know you mentioned it briefly a little bit earlier when you talked about reaching out to the subject of this video, of course, Anthony Wilson. But guys, Paul really does do some great stuff. I can't let him understate it like he did earlier. He reaches out to some players, gets some great information and really some true insider stuff here that nobody else in the West Virginia community or otherwise is going to give you here on YouTube. So be sure to get over here, check out Mountaineer Paul Talks Football, hit that subscribe button, get this man to 1,000 like he deserves to be. Mountaineer Nation, this is a great channel for you guys to support and follow. I just wanted to add that before we close, man.
It means a lot, man. I appreciate it. When you care and love about something like I do this content and you do yours, you put a lot of work in for it, even though that's a thankless job sometimes outside of just the passion for it. Sometimes it can, you get being down on yourself for the certain little things when you have high standards for yourself. I think that's normal, but I certainly do appreciate the flowers. And like I said, if you want to see a good video, go watch Jordan, just the one he released today. I was pumped. There's 4 guys on the list, not just this kid. There's 3 other kids, and especially one other kid on that list that I think if we land, I think he could possibly mean big things for the offensive line this year. I'm a big fan of his. Get over and check it out, guys. You got anything else to say, Jordan?
No, man, that's my dog barks in the background. Apologies for that. I just appreciate you letting me have a little guest spot here on your channel, and hopefully I can return the favor here soon. I always love working with you, man. And it's great here to have some great content creators throughout the West Virginia community to bring some great content of Mountaineer sports here to Mountaineer Nation. And excited to see more of it coming from you, and plenty more transfers to talk about in the future. And hopefully we land Anthony Wilson. Just fingers crossed on that.
That's absolutely right. And don't forget, Jordan also covers basketball on that channel. Coos from Coos' Corner and I have our own basketball channel that we are pretty much we're doing 2 or 3 videos a week. I would say we keep the content up on that channel as well. Obviously, big things on the horizon for the basketball team. Can't understate how excited I think we all are right now on the Jesse Edwards and Caleb Grill watch. So we'll be watching for that as we go forward. As we continue to be serenaded by the dog in the background, we are going to say goodbye, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football is over. We are out.
This is for Cameron. Cam. Oh.